Welcome in, Campo and Joe. Happy to hang out with you for the time that you're going to check us out on Facebook Live or wherever you find us on our 1010XL social channels. Joe C. from XL Primetime, that man right there. Dave Campo, former Dallas Cowboy head coach, former assistant right here in Jacksonville, and now all of Duval knows that Coach Campo is one of us. He is a Jaguar. Well, I don't know whether we can call ourselves Jaguar fans, but we support the home.
Well, we're
team.
Jaguar fans, but we are on the dark side.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we are critical when we need to be. But, here it is. It's the offseason. This is one of the first off-seasons, Coach, since 2019 that we've been optimistic about this bunch. Right. And I'm enjoying this. I really am. Yeah. The fact that we're basically right now, we are we're a month away. Yeah. March 28th. The draft comes up April 28th, and I can't wait for that. But we haven't spent a lot of time talking about the draft. We actually have to do a little homework within the next few weeks and start looking at the draft.
Well, I've looked at it a little bit. Yeah. So whenever you're ready to go, let's roll. But, this is fun. Fortunately, in my coaching career, I had some bad times now, don't get me wrong, but I had a lot of good ones. And the off season, whether you're in media, whether you're the fan downtown, it's a fun time when you've had a good season and you feel real good about the team and the direction it's going. And I think that's where the Jaguars are right now.
Yeah. I'm going to throw Ryan Wilson, one of our guys that we go to on a regular basis. He does a 3-round mock on CBS Sports, and he also pairs up with Rick Spielman and does a podcast. Right. He's a great dude. And I'm going to throw a few of those at you as we go along. But the owners' meeting's taking place, and the coaches showed up, including Doug Peterson, and talking a bunch about this team. This is when the national media postseason gets to talk to these coaches. And Doug was very complimentary of everything that's happening here and feeling very positive and adding to it. And one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and I'm going to see if I can pull up just this one little basically title of the quote. We don't have the quote to play for you, but you're listening to 1010XL. You probably heard it. But one thing he said is they want to draft to the culture, and I hope I have that right.
Right.
But explain what that means, because they're trying to identify a player that fits what they want to do.
Well, first of all, if you're worth a darn as a head coach, you know what you want your team to look like.
Right.
And I go back all the way to Coach Johnson, Jimmy Johnson, from the standpoint that the one thing he wanted from the very beginning was smart players. Okay? Now, you couple that with good people, and you've got smart players, then draft and develop becomes a real thing, because now those players will improve.
Right.
Because they're smart, they're motivated, they've got great character. And that's the culture that you're looking for in the locker room, where guys are just not all about themselves. And that's a very difficult thing in this day and age, number one.
Yeah.
But in professional athletics, even more so.
You know what I think really impresses me, and I'm calling it the Peterson effect. I really do like lauding what he's done and what his coaching staff has done. But a year ago, all these high-priced contracts that we've seen in the free agent world, a year ago, the most expensive wide receiver came in. Another $12 million receiver came in Zay Jones. I'm trying to remember the exact number that Evan Ingram got, but he also got paid a hefty sum. Bottom line
$9
is $9 million. Right. Brandon Sheriff comes in for a big chunk. And so a lot of these guys came in, and you might think in today's world that they go, okay, I got my money. Yeah. I can coast a little bit. That did not happen this go-around. They still were able to create a culture, even though those guys just barely walked in the building. Well,
that's a credit to Trent Baalke, the scouting staff, the pro scouting staff, and Coach Peterson, knowing what he wanted his team to look like. And those were the guys that they brought in. And they knew darn good well, they didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
But they knew that they had to bring some guys in that were team-type guys and that made the locker room, each room better.
Right.
And that's what they did with those guys. There was a lot of talk about Kirk getting paid too much and all that. I felt that he probably changed the market a little bit. But to me, I didn't care whether he got $50 million or $10 million.
Right.
he made the locker room better in that room. And I think that's what they've done for sure.
He was a professional that came in and did his job.
Right.
And we went over the numbers, 3 guys with 70 catches or more, only team in the National Football League that was able to do that. And he was productive. And we were talking about it on the show. Is he going to be a top 100 player? Is Trevor going to be a top 100 player? Is ETN going to be a top 100 player? I don't know. We're going to see where it goes. But Christian Kirk, if you look at catches, yardage, and all that, he was around a top 20 receiver this year.
Oh, yeah. No question. And I knew he was going to be that if they used him, and obviously they did. The guy, he was with Hopkins and a couple other guys out there at Arizona.
Yeah.
And he still was pretty close. I think he was 900
right,
something,
very close
right?
to 1,000 yards, yeah.
So, I mean, he had proven that he could be an 1,000 yard receiver.
Yeah.
And he certainly did that. And, but the problem that you have with Christian is he dropped a couple, and that's what you remember, unfortunately, But in all honesty, the guy did everything he was asked to do.
Yeah. Winning plays, moments in time that are frozen for the fan, from that day forward. That's what you wanted to see in those 2 Chiefs games, which are the 2 big drops that we're talking about. They were on the hands. Trevor made beautiful throws down the field in the regular season and in the postseason. And you'd love to get those back. And heck, a little more chemistry, a little more time together. Maybe they do make those plays this coming year. Since we talked last week, we talked about a couple of the decisions that they made, bringing Dewey back, bringing Adam Gossis, a handful of decisions. Since then, they've added a couple of other guys. Dearness Johnson's a running back that they brought in that we're going to have on XL Primetime tomorrow. And then a couple of others, not real sexy signings, but I don't have a problem with that. Doug Peterson said at the owners' meetings, it's keeping this core, bringing your free agents back and signing those guys.
There's no question that was the approach that they took, which, they've proven that the guys that are here have done enough for them to be a playoff type team. So why not get those guys back?
Right.
Especially with the young guys they have and guys that were productive. So that was the deal. And they spent money last year. They were in a situation where they weren't going to be able to go out and get the top guy or whatever. And I'm not sure that they needed him. We've already talked about the culture. The one thing that they did last year, and hopeful that they did the same thing this year, is when they brought a guy in, for example, Johnson, the running back, I think he makes the running back room better because he's shown in spurts that he could be a guy that it could really help them. And it's, a competition. You've got more competition. The more competition you have, the better chance you've got. When you look at the D linemen they brought in, a couple of guys, you need linemen, and
rotation guys.
Yeah, and they're not sexy guys, but you add Gotsis, who they know can do what they want him to do.
Yep.
And these other guys, obviously, they've looked at him and said, "Hey, they did it with Harris, they did it with Fatukasi. They know what they're looking for."
Yeah.
And hopefully these guys help in that area as well.
Doug commented on getting Roy Robertson Harris back, how much he liked it, and talked about the loss of Arden Key and how they're going to replace him. He also brought up Calais Campbell. And
Right.
I don't know where we are, Coach, but if you want to handicap that, jump in on it. It would be great. I'm not going to say Calais can deliver more than maybe some of the other guys that are out there, but from a leadership role, knowing what this locker room has been like, knowing what he can do still on the football field, it'd be great. What do you think the chances are?
Well, first of all, it would be a tremendous signing, in my opinion, because the guy is, has a relationship here with the city, with, all the things.
The mayor of Saxonville.
I promise you that the ticket sales will be improved with Calais Campbell coming back here. So from a organizational standpoint, it's there. The guy played over 500 snaps last year. It's not like it's not like this guy didn't play.
Right.
He played more snaps than Arden Key did.
Yeah, he averaged around 37, 39 snaps. Is that what it was?
Yeah. And so this guy's got something left, in my opinion. I'm not sure that he's not a better football player right now than Fatukasi is. So the problem you have with that is, though, I believe someone else in the league is going to offer him more money than we can offer him.
Yeah.
That's the concern. And he's looking around. You know, he is one, in my opinion, though, at the end of his career that he's looking to go to a Super Bowl.
Yes, he is.
So,
and this team now can offer.
Who has the better chance? Is it the Jets? Or
right here in Duval.
Is it Atlanta or here?
Yeah.
Right here.
And those are the cities that have been mentioned.
Hopeful that's where it's going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, those are the cities that have been mentioned. He said coming out of the owners' meetings, he's going to go up to New York.
Right.
And look, New York has got to piece things together right now. They still don't know what they're going to have to give up to ultimately get Aaron Rodgers into the Big Apple. And Calais is a smart cat, so he knows tax-wise what he's going to get hit with up there versus what he's going to hit with here,
right?
And what that roster looks like.
And he also looks at the defense, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And he's probably can make a bigger impact here than he can in New York.
Yeah, Mike Caldwell has got his work cut out for him, but another year, and especially with maybe another weapon or two that he can put on that defensive side of the ball. Doug Peterson talked about the growth of Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, all these guys.
Second-year guys.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's a definite.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be shocked if there wasn't a big improvement from the guys you just mentioned. You know, I've seen Devin Lloyd play at a high level, and he improved during the year. His play at the end of the year, he started fast, he hit a lull, and then all of a sudden he started playing again. And a second year, it's completely different. He had no training camp. He had an injury.
It's true.
You know, I mean, a rookie coming in, all of a sudden you hit a little bit of a wall, and he sat down for a while and then came back and played pretty well.
And let's be real. The number of guys that were rookies that were asked to start on this football team, probably more than the average in the National Football League.
Look at Tyson Campbell and Cisco.
Yeah,
what they did the second year.
Exactly, 2 second-year guys that came in and really started to own their position. And ETN, even though this was technically his second year, this was it felt like a rookie.
Right.
But you had Campbell holding it down, Cisco obviously playing much better, and you were asking Luke Fortner, you were asking Devin Lloyd, Trayvon Walker, all these guys, throw ETN in that pile to come in and be impact players immediately.
If I was Doug Peterson, I would be just as excited as he is. And I believe he's excited because he sees these young guys.
Yeah.
He knows what the potential is because he's watching them every day, a lot more than we do.
Right.
You know, he's seeing every stinking snap that those kids take and knows them personally and what they're made of. And he's got to be excited with what he's got with this football team, and especially if he can add 2 or 3 more young guys to this roster.
I don't know whether we've changed our mind from last week to this week as far as the young guys go, but let's at least hit a couple of these guys that are in the mock, okay? Because I feel like you and I are both looking at the defensive side of the football. That's number one. Campo and Joe can agree on that.
Yes.
I may go interior pass rush. You may go cornerback. But for Ryan Wilson's part in this, he's such a good dude. Darnell Wright is the offensive tackle that he has mocked with the 24th pick overall. Now, defensive lineman Brian Breesy goes off the board right in front of Jacksonville. Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver, who's really a talented cat. Bijan Robinson goes off the board before Darnell Wright. What do you think of that selection?
Well,
if it plays out that way.
Well, first of all, I don't know Wright that well, but I do know that he's one of the guys that is talked about as being one of the top guys. He's a first-round talent. The question is going to be where are they at in the offensive line business?
Right.
Because, I think that's a viable pick. That you got, first of all, I believe the third tackle is just as important as the first 2. Because the guy is a swing guy.
Right.
Now, whether that's Little or whether it's a guy they bring in or whether,
Right. And it was Walker Little this go around, and it helped tremendously.
Absolutely. You get a guy down, all of a sudden he comes in and he's ready to play. So, being a defensive coach, I think they need to improve the defense a little bit to go along. But so goes this team, so goes Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, very.
And so, there's always going to be that thought in your mind, I've got a chance to get a guy that's helps him.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big pull as far as I'm concerned going forward.
Yeah, protect him at all costs. 6'5", 320-plus pounds. He's a huge human being. All right, so a couple guys that were left on the draft board, if it plays the way Ryan Wilson's projecting. Deonte Banks, the cornerback out of Maryland. Luke Musgrave, a tight end out of Oregon. And I'm just looking to see, a linebacker, Drew Sanders, not going to go there. Michael Mayer is another tight end. If those two tight ends are sitting out there, what are you thinking at that point?
Boy, again, that is viable now because they didn't get a long-term deal with Ingram.
Right.
So the tight end position is one that they're probably definitely looking at. Yeah. And, it depends on what they think of those guys. They're both excellent players. There's a lot of mocks that say Kincaid's going to be down there at that position.
And he is a big-time target that is worth looking at.
So all of those things are being looked at this point. And to me, we've said it before, corner, inside pass rusher. If they're going to move Trayvon Walker inside, an outside pass rusher, Nolan Smith or whoever it is, offensive line, tight end.
Yeah,
those are the positions they're going to be looking at in my position.
Everyone's going to be trying to process that as this board unfolds in the first round.
Right.
Who is it going to be? Ryan Wilson does go with the Jaguars taking Garrett Williams, a cornerback out of Syracuse, with their second-round selection, 56 overall. So if it were to play, that's a big offensive lineman, protect Trevor, and then they go cornerback.
Corner in the second round.
Yeah.
And that's very feasible. And I don't know that, I think we can talk about, which I'm sure you guys are going to do on the primetime show, no matter who it is, we can talk about all these guys all we want, but we really don't know what they're thinking.
Right.
And what they're looking at. And again, I think that we know, though, the parameters that they're looking at, and that's going to be the parameters.
Well, just to use one number, the Jaguars, when you and I were doing this show a year ago, we said, how in the heck are they going to get back to winning football games? You know what they're going to do? They're going to have to score more, and they're going to have to give up less points. That's pretty obvious.
Right.
They were averaging about 4 touchdowns per game that they were giving up, and they were scoring in the teens. So we knew that was not a winning formula. Well, now they have basically trimmed it to where they're giving up less than 21 points per game.
Right.
Now, even though this defense, you say, needs as much help as the other side of the ball, that's a much better number. How much better can they get if they go get the right guys on defense?
Can get better.
Yeah,
they
can
get better.
I agree.
Not even the numbers of points, because I think our offense is going to score more points this year than they did last year. It's more control of the game and giving the offense. We're not going to turn the ball over running back for touchdowns as much next year as we did this year. We had some big plays in there that don't happen all the time. So we need more consistent defense, in my opinion. That's what we're talking about here.
So they're in the bottom 4th in yards per game given up.
Right.
Okay, that's a bad number.
It is.
They had less than 36 sacks. That's not a good enough number.
Right.
And they actually started off okay making sacks. And so when you have those numbers, and look, pass defense, we know that they gave up their share. And they've got to get better. And they had some liabilities with Trey Herndon and a couple of other guys because of the injury to Shaq. But those are the numbers that absolutely have to improve.
Yeah, and again, I always based whether or not my defense was good based on points scored. Right. I agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, if you don't give up a lot of points.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, if you're nothing but bend but don't break.
Right.
You're keeping your offense that has a chance to score off the field. The game today is even more important that the offense gets more opportunities to score, because you're not going to win playoff games in the AFC without score. You're going through 5-6 quarterbacks. Yeah. You're going to have to score points to win.
Yeah.
So consistent defense is what they have to improve with. And that means, getting off on third down, not
yeah.
a lot of yardage. You need cover guys. You need guys that can put pressure on the passer, and that's what we're talking about on defense, in my opinion.
There's nothing worse if you're a fan watching on television or you're a fan in the stands and seeing your quarterback on the sidelines just taking another swig of Gatorade.
Yeah, or talking to Doug Peterson.
Yeah. Hey, that's the last thing you want to see. And that other guy is just clock, chain, moving right down the field. And so, time of possession, I think, and yards per game that they give up, they kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And you need sudden change plays, which is the sack, which is the turnover,
right,
and those types of things. And I got to believe that Mike Caldwell is getting a little more of an idea of who he thinks can do what on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and again, that's, we're talking about improvement from Walker, improvement from Lloyd, improvement from Muma, whoever the guys are. How about improvement from the coaching staff?
Yeah.
Second year.
Exactly.
A new coordinator. New coordinator as a coordinator.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I know that first year. When I took the reins in '95, and we fortunately had a good enough football team that we won the Super Bowl that year. My first year as a coordinator. Yeah. I wasn't going to change one thing that we had been doing. We had gone to 2 Super Bowl wins and an NFC championship game.
Right.
Then I take over.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I wasn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
Well, Dave Caldwell,
Mike
Caldwell, excuse me, I get the Caldwells mixed up a little bit, getting a little older. You know what I mean?
We don't want to.
We definitely don't want any comparison. Yeah. We like our guy, Mike Caldwell.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I didn't change a thing. Well, Mike Caldwell came from a pretty darn good defensive football team and winning team with Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to change a whole lot either. Well, if you don't have the personnel, it's a little different.
David
I had the personnel.
Yeah, Shaq Barrett.
I didn't change anything because I had the same guys basically that we had for the last 3-4 years. He didn't have those guys.
Right.
Well, you're still in your mind, this is what I know. We did this well.
Yeah.
So I expect improvement from him as well.
Yeah, and I think these guys can blossom into good players, but a lot of them, as we said, the collection of first and second year guys that were asked to carry a big load, meaning start on this football team and make plays. Now they're going to be second-year guys and third-year guys, and there's going to be a little more experience. And Josh Allen's got a key fifth year right now that he needs to make sure that he plays his best ball.
And, the other thing you have to keep in mind as well, if you watched our football team down the stretch, they were playing harder at the end of the year than they did at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So, the culture that we're talking about with Coach Peterson and Mike Caldwell, I think Mike Caldwell is a very well-liked coordinator, and I think they have good coaches. So, that whole, that's going to be there next year at the beginning of the season, throughout the season. Is that never give up, play hard, all those kind of things. They know now how important that is.
And I could call it a same page system. They're all on the same page now.
Right.
And let's finish up with this guy.
Okay.
You had Heath Farwell on our show on XL Primetime. He's a special teams coordinator. He's a guy that Riley Patterson, they had to settle on a kicker. They found their kicker. He gave Logan Cook a lot of credit for doing his job as the punter, putting him in decent starting field position defensively. Anyway, it was nice to have a conversation with him, and he also preached the Peterson way too.
Yeah, no question. And if you guys out there heard the Primetime show, which I hope you did because it's a great show, when he was on, he talked about, he had been with Ron Rivera. He played for Pete Carroll at Seattle, was with McDermott up at Buffalo. All outstanding coaches. And the one thing that he said that Doug Peterson brought to the table that those other guys in some way, shape, or form had was the ability to be consistent and be the same all the time, at the same time pushing the players and making sure that the players knew that they had to work hard in order to win.
There's a way to do it when you make guys feel like they're a part of the success.
Right.
In other words,
correct.
They're not getting blamed. They're getting and it wasn't like let me just make this distinction. Gus Bradley was an unbelievably positive guy. but I don't know that he pressed when he needed to. He said, a win is not the most important thing. Progress is the most important thing. I disagree, Gus. I'm sorry.
You got to win.
Yeah, you got to win.
Right.
Anyway, he was an extremely positive guy. Well, so is Doug.
Yes.
But Doug has the plan to go along with the
Absolutely. And you know, that's something that, that you don't put your finger on all the time is how important that is. And we've talked about it a lot, the culture and what he's done. There's no doubt in my mind that he has a plan going forward. And he said that, Heath Farwell said, he's got a plan. He knows what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. And that's how you do it.
The other thing I liked is that Heath Farwell said one of his buddies up in Buffalo, Chad Hall, is now the wide receivers coach. He's his roomie, that he's living in his house with him, which you know that house. And,
I do.
Yeah.
He has my house.
It used to be your house.
My original house here in Sawgrass.
Yeah, which is great. And so he loves the fact that he's coming in and he's getting, look, we give Chris Jackson a lot of credit for what he was able to do with Kirk, Zay, Marvin, all those guys. And now they're going to bring another guy in, which you hope is a great hire.
Surprises me a lot. Surprises me. Reminds me a lot of the group that we went to Dallas with. 6 guys from the University of Miami.
Yeah. Jimmy
was big with camaraderie of the coaching staff and guys being on the same page. And I think Doug is just like that.
Yeah.
And I look at this team very similar to that team. We went 1-15, 7-9, playoffs the next year, 11-5, won the first game, Super Bowl the next.
Yeah.
Well, they're 1 year ahead, in my opinion. You've heard me say that before.
Oh, yeah.
They got to the playoffs in the second year. It took us 3 years to get there.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of faith in this group, and I think this team is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, love it. Still miss Jim Bob. Still miss Cooter.
Oh, Cooter. Yeah, unfortunately, we lost 2 guys.
Yeah.
But bringing in a guy like Hall that has, I guarantee you that Farwell had a hand in that because he's been with them.
Yeah, which is awesome. All right, we love being with you guys. Campo and Joe, thank you for hanging out with us. Wherever you catch us, you can definitely tweet at us. Just let us know what's up. But we appreciate it. Dave Campo, Joe C., we will talk to you next time.